host, Joshua Big Hempy McGuire, and tonight, once again, we have James Flaming Eagle Mooney with us. We're going to be discussing the purpose of the Oklevueha Native American Church tonight. James, good to have you with us. How you doing tonight?
Real good. Real good. Nice to be here.
Glad to have you with us. So let's go ahead and get into what the purpose of the Oklevueha Native American Church is. The reason why you set it up.
Well, the first reason, um, the real reason that I set Oklevueha up was simply I was a member of the North American Native American Church, which at that time was the largest Native American church organization in the United States. And I was a vice president of the Salt Lake City North American Native American Church. And there's quite a story of how I became part of the North American Native American Church. They sought me out. The major reason they sought me out was because of my great-grandfather, James Mooney, who was the person that is considered to save the entire American Native culture. I think
Right.
we talked about him some time ago.
Yeah, we did. We talked about him. I think the last two episodes, and we just
Yeah.
we discussed a little bit about how you joined the Native American Church as well. The last episode, a little bit.
And did I say that when they sent me a letter to have all the people thrown in jail that I had been working with that weren't
Yeah,
part of the federally recognized tribes? Yeah.
yeah,
And then that's the reason I said, good, 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 good. I
yep.
didn't listen to, I hadn't listened to the thing. So that that particular thing, I had discovered, I had discussed the situation that there was first the extermination order. In other words, to kill every Native American, primarily the medicine people,
Right,
and then that didn't. Then in 1890, December the 30th, that was the last sanctioned murdering of Native American people by the United States government. And then we talked about the cultural genocide that was going on, and the last of those schools was closed in 1973 in Ogden, Utah.
right.
Then
Which
the third atrocity was the denial of civil liberties of the Native American culture, which was utilized by the uh, the conditioning, the brainwashing, and I hate the word use the word conspiracy because I mean that's used so weird now. I mean everything's a conspiracy if it doesn't go along with your thinking.
right,
But nevertheless, it was a conspiracy to keep the Native American church only on Indian reservations because that's where the Bureau of Indian Affairs could keep control and limit the abilities of the Native American church to experience its civil liberties.
right,
And that was eliminated in 2005. Well, actually, when the United Utah Supreme Court ruled that that's nonsense. I mean, what they pulled off for almost 100 years was that if you wanted to practice the Roman Catholic religion, you would have had to been born in Italy. That's what they
right,
pulled off. But they added another thing: is you had to be Indian as well, um, had to belong to the right political affiliation, which was a Native American federally recognized tribe. And so they they pulled that lie off for over 100 years. And so now, after the federal government came after me and they lost their shirt, I think we talked about that too, didn't we?
yes, we did. We went into that as well.
Uh-huh. So now the real challenge is to for Akava now that it's very clear that we're like a sovereign nation and we're the only federally recognized church that is known as a free church, meaning it does not need to be incorporated for the United States government to recognize this as a church.
Excellent.
Okay, and so that's really a big thing. And to give you some background, when I started to open up Oklevueha, and I first went to the state of Utah and got a state tax ID number. Then I called the federal government or the IRS, and I said I want to do whatever it takes to make our church legitimate in the eyes of the United States. And they asked me the history, and I told them about the Rosebud Reservation and that we're a Native American church. And then the first person was a he, and he said, "Oh, well, you're already recognized." I said, "What? Yeah, you're already recognized. You don't need a tax ID number." I said, "What? I don't need a tax ID number?" And he said, "No, you don't need one. You're already recognized as a church." I hung up and I couldn't believe my ears, so I called them back again. This time I got in touch with a woman and said the same thing. And she said the same thing. You are already recognized as a Native American church.
Oh,
Or
wow.
as a church. And I couldn't, I hung up and I still couldn't believe it. So I called back again, and I happened to contact the same guy that I talked to right off the bat. And I went through it, and he says, "I've already told you, you don't need a federal tax ID number because you're already recognized, the United States recognizes you as a church." And I said, "How can I get a bank account
Right.
if I don't have a tax ID number?" And he said, "Oh, you just want a notice from the government that we recognize you as a church. Is that right?" "Well, yeah, that's that
Oh,
too, yeah."
yeah. Yeah.
And so he gave me, or the government gave me, a federal employee ID number. And that's what Wells Fargo used. And
Right.
Wells Fargo didn't even want to do it. Well, they did it, but then after they said, "Holy mackerel, he didn't. This is an employee ID number, not a tax ID number." So it took them about 3 months or 6 months of their all their attorneys, and they contacted me and says, "He's right. All he needs is an employee ID number. He's already recognized by the United States government as a church." And I understand Oklevueha Native American Church, or the Rosebud Native American Church, is the only church or religion that has that unique affiliation with the United States government.
That's really interesting to hear.
Yeah,
I
it's.
was going to say
I couldn't.
because
Go ahead.
I know that there's a lot of paperwork and stuff that normally has to be filed to get
Mm-hmm.
recognized as a church for the tax exemptions and everything like that, and the IDs and everything because of being considered a nonprofit organization and everything else.
That's right. That's right. And so we're the only church, not even the Catholic Church has that unique standing. They have their standing in European type of a thing.
Right.
And like the Mormon Church, it's incorporated, and basically it's an incorporated church is what it amounts to. The Rosebud Reservation spirituality is the only church that I understand that has that unique distinction. And that came from what I talked about some time ago with the Dawes Act in
Right.
relationship with the Rosebud Reservation. So now what this is, because the Native American Church represents the indigenous culture, and the European culture or capitalist culture is so different from the indigenous culture. In the capitalistic culture, it's what you have and what you own that decides on how you're looked upon as being successful.
Right.
The indigenous culture is exactly the opposite. It is what you are able to give, which signifies whether you are a successful person or not. And and there's another couple of things that are really different. The idea of competition with Native American people is it makes no sense to them. If you want to talk to them about excelling at something, yeah, they got no problems with that. Okay,
Right.
but to go out and beat somebody as a that's totally foreign to their.
Right. It's
And
it's
another,
it's it's more to challenge someone to rise up than to try to challenge him
or
to
learn from,
yeah, and
or
that,
learn from.
right, rather than to challenge them to beat them down.
Yeah, exactly right. It's totally opposite. Okay, and then the idea of ownership is another thing that is totally. Uh, if you ever saw that movie Dances with Wolves, is
Yes.
really there's a scene in there where Costner loses his hat on the prairie, and they're in the teepee, and this guy walks in with his hat, and he says, "That's my hat," and the guy says, "No, it's not your hat. I found it on the prairie." I mean, do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
The idea of ownership just is, it makes no sense to
Right.
the indigenous culture. So you have these two cultures that are really profoundly wonderful. Capitalism is really a wonderful system. You can have growth so fast with that kind of a thing, and it's aggressive and all this other stuff. But more importantly, it's easier to um, make transactions than it is through the barter system and
Right.
things like that. And so, I my personal opinion is that this culture that we have, there's no way in the world that the indigenous culture could have supported the growth that we have now. And so now, because our culture is basically based off of corruption, you think about the advancement of the Native American or the of the United States from the East Coast to West Coast is all based on corruption.
Right.
The reservation system, the United States Supreme Court told Andrew Jackson that's unconstitutional for you to do that. And he just basically says, screw you, I got control of the army and there's
Right.
nothing you can do about it. And so that the reservation system was known to be unconstitutional right from the beginning. And then every treaty that the United States government went into up to this time have violated every treaty that they made with the people on the way they handled the land. Therefore, our whole culture is based on corruption.
Oh
And
yeah.
I personally believe now it is starting to get cleaned up because we can see evidently how corrupt we have become. Okay?
Oh yeah, you see it starting to get pointed out more and more, and it's also I think part of that cycle that you talked about how the medicine becomes corrupt and contaminated, and then every so often it becomes purified again, and that we're
That's
starting to
it.
come into that stage of purification.
Exactly right. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Now, that purification is what the Native American culture is all about, and that is service.
Right.
That's where Oklevueha is all about. But first, we have to get the people, our members, to really understand the power that they really have. And I was happy that the Council of Advisors had printed something on our website or on our Facebook where it talks about we're here to serve,
Right.
pure and simple, and that our constitutional rights are and the civil liberties. There's no other group of people in the face of this planet that can experience the full ramifications of the United States Constitution. I mean, so many laws. I would venture to say, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would venture to say 60% of all the laws that are operating this country are Bill of Attainder laws. which are illegal.
Right.
The war on drugs was the biggest one. It was totally illegal. And I mean, trying to outlaw about someone putting something in their mouth, give me a freaking break. That's
Right.
crazy. Or put a needle in their arm. It doesn't make any difference.
Right.
Makes
It's them trying to control what we do to our own bodies,
That's right.
which, granted, some of the stuff isn't necessarily good, but it's not my
No,
job.
it's not good at all.
It's not my job to say this is good for you, this is bad for you.
That's right.
It's my
That's
job.
right.
It's my job to be there to say, hey, if you need help, I'm here for you.
Absolutely. And that's the real game. Okay. And so right now, the major thing of Oklevueha is to educate, and that's the reason I wanted to be part of your program, is because it's part of education.
Oh,
That
most
to show
definitely.
people how powerful what they have with that card of what freedoms they have now available. They have the freedoms that our founding fathers had designed the Constitution to realize. Exactly right. That card is so powerful. It says it right on the back.
You want me to
Yeah.
read the back off again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Forgive me for my voice. I'm just struggling with a little bit of autoimmune stuff, so my voice has been raspy today, but I'll do my best. It says the person's it starts off, it says Oklevueha Native American Church official member card. And it says the person secured with this card has met the standard of sincerity to be a member of the Oklevueha Native American Church. Being a member of the ONAC qualifies this card holder to carry and or possess Native American church sacraments, including but not limited to peyote, ayahuasca, cannabis, psilocybin mushroom, fungi, and etc. Laws pertaining to the protection of all ONAC medicine persons and members' civil liberties are outlined in the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution, and more specifically described in the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act of 2000. And it's got your signature right there on the back.
Yeah, yeah, those. Well, that really says it all. But to describe what that really means, or what it means to Oklevueha, is that right now, because of so much horrible things have happened to the people of color of this nation, and I mean, it's horrendous. And this past election kind of just basically shows straight out that these people of color are waking up, and the deciding factor to this election, at the demise of the losing party, was that the women of color came up, and they won this election. Over
the
5 million people
the minority
plus.
the minority groups came out in droves for this election. Even the LGBT community came
Yeah.
out big time and voted in this election, and it was really a historic event because for the first time there are a lot of LGBT people that were put into positions of office, including people of color within that community as well, got into
And
really high positions of power in state, and some even, I think, even one or two federal positions.
Native American.
Oh yeah.
There never has there been so many Native American women.
Yeah.
Okay, and there are Native American men too, but that has never happened. And you remember, in up until 1930 something or another, women couldn't vote.
Right.
Indians weren't even considered citizens, and blacks couldn't vote. I mean, think about this. Here's these people that were considered non-citizens, and now, less than 100 years later, they are the dominant figure that has made this election the way it turned out. and it's led by women.
Yep.
And Oklevueha Native American Church is a matriarchal church, because it's like what my Chief Little Dove, when she was telling me about my heritage and stuff, she basically, she's a chief, okay?
Right.
And she's basically, and there's a lot of tribes, especially Eastern tribes, that are matriarchal. And my whole thinking is, who knows better what is needed by the children and by the family than the woman?
Right.
And so the woman says, we need to move now. Or so the guy is responsible to go out and put things together and then get the move. Or we need some beef, or no, we need some deer. We need some protein. So he
Right.
goes out, and we need some fish. So he goes out and gets. So basically, the man just does what the woman wants him to do. And I tell you, in my experience in being married to the wonderful woman I've been married to, it's a lot more fun. I'd rather be happy than right.
Well, hold on. Being happy, sometimes being happy and being right are the same thing.
Well, hopefully that's the way it is. But
Yeah.
if there's any kind of a debate with my wife, okay, I much prefer to be happy than right, if you know what I'm saying to you. And what's so interesting is my wife, and most of the women that I admire, they all run by their heart.
Yep.
They go by their heart, by what they feel. And I personally believe the Great Spirit touches our hearts before it does their head. And the head actually dictates, or not dictates, the head is dictated on by the heart on how to
Right.
get things accomplished. Okay?
Right.
So anyway, and then my tribal chief said that the boys, when they were born, would always would nurse almost as long as 5 years. They would nurse, and then they wouldn't even associate with anybody else other than the mother until they were 8 years old. And I'm saying this approximate.
Right.
They
Right.
didn't have a thing like that, but anyway. And this is what the key was that she told me. She says the reason that we want the mothers to have total domination, and she did use the word domination, over the boys, is so that the boys would learn the lessons of the mother,
Right.
which is unconditional love.
Right.
That is a powerful statement when you think about it.
Oh yeah.
And so now to know that the women have woken up, and the indigenous women, or the people of color women, have woke up. You don't want to oppose those people, let me tell you.
Right.
They know how to get things done.
In a lot of the spiritual circles and stuff that I get into and talk with and stuff, not just within the ONAC, because I talk with people in all kinds of different groups and organizations outside of this one, and discuss spiritual matters with everyone. There seems to be a collective agreement that the divine feminine energies are coming to the forefront now, and that what we're going to be seeing over the next several years is the fall of the patriarchy and the rise of the matriarchy again.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the fall of the patriarchy, but the leadership is going to be acknowledged by the women. I mean, they're more. When I was in the restaurant industry, and I would taste food to see, like on a smorgasbord or some type of restaurant that had all kinds of food already.
Mm.
I would never taste the food to see if anything was bad. I'd always have a woman. Their senses are much more sensitive than men's. Their smell, their eyesight, their taste bud, their hearing is so much more sensitive than men. So I would always have the woman taste the food to make sure there wasn't anything spoiled because she'd pick it up so fast to make your head spin. And my wife is the same way. I mean, she hears things and smells things that I said, what? You know, they're just women are just extremely more sensitive. That's not to degrade men,
No.
because we have our things too, and I'm not going to go into that. But the thing is that the whole aspect of woman is to serve. Think about that. Unconditional love. I mean, I still love to go in to a Walmart or to a Target or to Costco or whatever, and I sit there sometimes, and I do. I will just take a seat and watch these mothers cart these children around. I mean, it just is amazing to me. I mean, you see, you have a baby sitting in the cart. You've got another baby on the back of the woman, and then she's got two little toddlers on the sides of her. I, I just, it just blows my mind. I mean, I could never do that. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't. That's not in my DNA, let me tell you. And I'm just amazed and what women go through and being pregnant and unbelievable, unbelievable. And so, because we are a matriarchal church, and because of the code of ethics and the code of policies, we are. You have so much freedom. You just be respectful to other people's differences. Okay.
Right.
You read those things, you abide by those, and basically it's all just about being respectful of other people's differences. That's all it is.
Right.
You look at forgiveness, and all these are just powerful things. So there's
Basically,
no dogma.
basically the golden rule is really the key to everything with it.
Exactly right. And so you have a church that doesn't have any dogma. You don't have to. The only dogma it has, if you want to call it a dogma, is learn how to forgive.
Yeah.
Be humble, okay? Be charitable, and things like that.
Right.
So Oklevueha now is in a stage of, in part, educating people that they have these rights. So many people want to do medicine work. Okay, they have that ability to do that.
Right.
Okay, and to be frank with you, if you're an Oklevueha Native American Church medicine person, that's more powerful than a church, because a church or a branch is only designated for that area.
Right.
You see, but that Oklevueha medicine person card is international. It is recognized around the world.
Yeah.
And but what that is, it's like, it was just so interesting. My tribal chief in Florida wanted me to live in Florida. And she said, "Oh, I'll give you 5 acres." And I said, "Well, let me see it." You know, and so she walked me out, and it was a swamp. 5 acres of swamp. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I mean, how am I going to, what? Well, we'll build you a cheeky. A cheeky is a kind of a building. It'll be on stilts
Right.
above the
Right.
water line." And I said, "Well, holy mackerel, you know, how would people get there?" And he says, "Well, that's the point, James. If they get to you, you know they want help."
Right.
Think about that for a moment.
Oh yeah, because it's a
Because
challenge to get there.
yeah, well, they got to go. They really know they want help. But the
Right.
real thing is that she told me that the tribe takes care of everything for the medicine man, their food, everything, so that they can concentrate just on the medicine, on how to serve their fellow human beings.
Right.
So no matter, and that was an edict that was given to me, that I could never refuse anybody asking me for help. And that's the reason I had to move out of Oklevueha, because I couldn't correct anybody. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the vetting system that
Right.
they have now, I couldn't have never set that up because of that edict I had.
Right.
And so now we are really recognized as a bona fide church and religion that's international under, and it has all these freedoms, and we're not concerned about you kowtowing to us and stuff. Just abide by those code of ethics and you're going to be in good shape.
Right.
And so if you want, so the freedoms are just unbelievable. But service is what Oklevueha is about. Just like a mother, all it cares about is the welfare of its members, and we consider every human being a brother and sister.
Right.
Therefore, but they have to be members of Oklevueha, because when they're members of Oklevueha, they're part of a sovereign nation.
Right. So,
And if we were serving somebody that wasn't a member of Oklevueha, that would put a dent into our protection of being a sovereign nation.
right. That's why we can't give medicine to people that's not within
Cattle.
the church and stuff.
Exactly right.
Now let me ask you a question, James. I know Oklevueha, it's a Seminole word, correct?
Yeah, it's the name of the river that flows right next to our tribe. Our tribe is Oklevueha, the band of Oklevueha Native, Oklevueha Band of Seminole Indians.
Okay.
Because that's
Okay.
a river.
Because I was wanting to know what the word actually meant. So it's the name of a
Oh,
river.
it's the name of the river, but this is what's really important. Oklevueha means it will get to, it's a name of a river that,
Oh, we
whoops, somebody just, oh, shoot. Okay. Can you see me still?
no, do you see the little icon that looks like a camera?
No.
Okay.
Somebody's trying to call me is what it amounts to. I will
What we
decline it.
yeah,
Okay, you
there you
just
go.
did.
You're back. There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, what happened is that Oklevueha just wants to serve, but we have a real illness, sickness of our society, whether it has to, it's DNA or um, something that you're carrying on, cellular memory or whatnot. That's what ayahuasca is really powerful,
Oh
where it
yeah.
starts cleaning up back things. Peyote isn't, to me, ayahuasca is like to the 10th power of peyote. But peyote is so safe because nobody can put anything into it. You just pick it,
Right.
eat it. And
Right.
plus it's easy to transport and the whole thing. But anyway, the idea is that we have these ceremonies that have proven unequivocally to assist people to resolve any addiction. I don't care what the addiction is. Uh, or all of the sacraments. It's just like Clifford, White Buffalo Man Jake told me. Everything that ails this culture, the answers are right up there in the mountains and the deserts and the oceans and etc.
Right. It's
You
in the
don't need
plant.
the pharmacy.
Yeah, it's in the plants that we were given, and
That's right.
it's in it's in the ayahuasca, it's in the peyote, it's in the psilocybin, it's in the cannabis, it's in these plants that are considered sacred sacraments, and there's a lot more out there too. And then there's
Oh,
also and then there's also some that we don't even work with as far as the Oklevueha Native American Church, just because we don't have people that are trained to work in them yet.
that's basically it. Because the way the Council of Advisors are is once you've proven yourself to um, responsibly conduct ceremonies with whatever that your medicine may be, or that you're attracted to. Once you prove to them that you're responsible in dealing with that, man, you got a card.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come easy. Like for me, it took me 10 years before Clifford gifted me his cedar back, and that was kind of like my graduation. So Oklevueha is all about helping people. And we right now, we don't keep track records records of all the people we've assisted and everything like that, because that's not our game. All our game is help people, help people.
Right.
And um, so because it's really sick. I mean, when you look at some of the sexual deviation that's going on that is perpetrated upon children, that's really bad, and it needs, and we have solutions to that. When I worked in the prison system, I was known to deal with highly successful in dealing with pedophiles, which is supposed to be impossible to deal
Right.
with. And you know as well as I do that because of your with Damien and things. I mean, they're doing incredible work.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is, what people don't realize is a lot of these things, like what you was talking about, was like pedophiles and stuff. It's where it's someone has been abused and it's been passed down, and it's a behavior that they've learned. It goes into generational curses that have been passed down,
That's
and
exactly right.
and getting into working with these medicines on that spiritual level. Most places only deal with the physical health, and if you're lucky, they might deal with mental health. But if they're going to deal with mental health, they don't deal with it fully because they don't get into the aspect of the spiritual health as well.
Well, you're absolutely correct, but there's certain things with today's medicine, like for a long period of time, including in the prison system. When I went started to go along with what you expressed, is that when I went into the prison system as a counselor, I said to my wife, I said, sweetheart, 60% of the people I'm going to be dealing with are merely acting out what was done to them. And after 10 years or 7 or whatever it was, I came out and I said, it's 100%.
Yeah.
And so there's no evil per se. Okay. The thing is that you just need to get to the roots, whether it's generations ago, or get to the roots of where that intrusion happened, and then assist them to deal with it in this lifetime. And then you got these people that deal with. Let me tell you something that's really kind of a difficult thing to talk about, but I worked with a great deal amount of satanic worship people. And this is just unbelievable, because what happens in those things is that they program the, and I'm not going to go into what is done to these kids because it's
Right.
horrible,
Right.
but I can tell you this is that they are programmed. One is to think that the person that is the perpetrator is somebody else,
Right.
like the Pope of the Catholic Church or the prophet of the Mormon Church. Has nothing to do with, so that the person that is actually the perpetrator is unknown to
Right.
that person. Okay, that's one thing. But then this is something that I found out the hard way, and I almost lost about 20 people that I was working with. They are also programmed, if they divulge what has happened to them, they are programmed to commit suicide. And so I was working with 20 people, and I went back, took a 5-hour trip back to my home. About the time I got there, I got a phone call and said these 20 people are ready to kill themselves. I had to run back up there, spend another 7 days with all these 20 people, and to keep them from killing themselves. That's evil, man.
Yeah.
That's evil. But
Yeah.
that's the cellular thing that we're talking about. It's generational. And so the real issue is to learn to forgive,
Yep.
and the perpetrators have got to learn how to repent. And
Yep.
by facing these things, it is, as you know, it's pretty tough, man, to realize you're responsible for everything that you do, and so that thing about victimization is gone. And that's what this whole society is based on, is victimization. It's the government, it's Trump, it's Biden, it's the Republicans, it's the
Right.
Democrats, it's the church. I mean, it's all victimization BS, okay?
Well, I
So,
mean, it's true in a way that you can be a victim of something, but it's up to you whether you choose to stay a victim or if you're going to step up and do the work to heal from that and to
That's
come
it.
out on the other side of it. Because, yeah, someone can do something to you, and then technically you would be the victim of that person's actions. But the thing that you can either choose to do is stay in that victim mentality and that victim mindset, or move
Mhm.
beyond that and seek the healing. Because that's, there's so many people, like Demi and me have talked about it a lot, that so many people, when they say, "Oh, I want to get healthy, I want to get healing, I want to get over this," they really don't. What they want to do is they want to say that they want that, but yet they still want to maintain that victim mentality because they have come to identify that as part of who they are. And so, I mean, that's not everyone, but there you do run into a lot of people that
No, that's
the,
true. That's true.
their whole mentality becomes the idea of I was a victim, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me.
That's
And
right.
and until they move beyond that victim mentality into, hey, I'm healing from this, I'm healed from this, I'm doing the work, I'm doing I'm doing the hard work, I'm doing the shadow work, I'm doing the meditations and the prayers and the self-reflection, and sitting there and doing all that work.
Well, in my opinion, I have a take. I have a different take. All of the Native American indigenous tribes that I've lived with, and I've lived with a bunch of them, okay, in Mexico, the Tarahumara's, the Huicholis, the Tepewans, and I mean, I lived with them. Every culture has this interesting concept that when you're born, some kind of mist or a fog comes over your mind. And the whole idea is that the belief system is that they believe in a pre-existence. And so you have this mission, you know everything up in the world, and but coming to this world, you got to learn how to live by your faith,
Right.
go with your heart. And so you actually pick the parents you come through. And the reason you pick those parents that you came through, because they would give you the obstacles or the challenges in which you would have to learn to realize that you are in total control of everything that comes back to you. In other words, in my opinion, we're all gods. And
Yeah.
what God is considered a victim.
Right.
And so some of the people that have been molested and stuff like that, they asked for that. They set that up. And for me, because I had the same certain things that went on with me, and until I really felt like I could move on, I went to those people and I apologized to them for taking advantage of their youth so that I could have a death experience so that I could qualify to be a bona fide medicine man.
I see where you're coming from. I don't. Some of that I have some troubles getting through
Well,
myself
that's
personally.
right. And I'm saying this is something
Right.
that I have gained for myself.
Right.
And so I don't look at anybody as a victim. I
Right.
look at them as a God. And that because of certain pains that have come over them and deal with it, it has cluttered their abilities to tap into their godliness.
Right.
And a medicine person in my realm is a person that starts releasing those things that cover up that person's abilities to see how beautiful and wonderful they are.
That I agree with, and I agree that all the traumas and the abuse and the stuff that we suffer in this life shapes us into what we need to be, but we have to realize what that is and stop holding on to those things that we try to identify as, oh, I am a victim of this or I am a victim of that. And you have to release that victim mentality.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so to me, the victimization is the real illness that we or I don't even look at illness. I consider all these medicines and the ceremonies assisting people to become more in balance. When
Right.
we're sick, or disease or
A
unease. It's
disease,
simply
yeah.
we're out of balance. We're out of balance. And so these medicines and these ceremonies assist people to become more in balance, is what
Right,
that amounts to.
right,
So one of the things, there's two things that Oklevueha is really concerned about. Education is happening, and that's just, you keep on doing good works, and eventually people start gravitating to you, which I understand we're approaching 1 million people. I mean, my gosh, international. And we don't have missionaries out there doing things. We don't have any advertising. I mean, it's just coming, if you know
right,
what I'm saying to you.
right. People are
More,
seeing the people that are doing the work and going, "Hey, what is this that you're involved in?" Or it's they're out there actively searching and they're coming across,
that's right.
people like, people coming across Demian's work and stuff like what he's doing. I see that more often because I'm involved in that circle and stuff. I see what happens with that branch more than I do the others.
Mm-hmm. So the education is happening by just doing good works, okay, and helping people to become more balanced. And, or I like to use the word assisting people to become more balanced, okay?
Right.
Then the second or the third thing, outside of education and outside of healing people or empowering, I don't ever look at myself as a healer or
Well,
ever been
the
a
the
healer.
one the one thing that I've seen and I always like is, I read it said that a healer is not someone that heals someone. A healer is someone that shows the person the power within themselves to heal themselves.
Exactly right. And I look at that as empowerment.
Yeah.
My wife looks at it as healing. I look at it as empowerment. I don't know which way,
I mean,
you know.
it's a different perspective. I mean, technically, empowerment is a form of healing. So,
Yeah. Well, it just depends on which side of the fence you want to be talking about, you know.
right,
Or which side of the coin is basically you want to work with. So we talked about the education, we're talking about the empowerment or healing. Then the third thing is to be of service to the indigenous people of our continent. Okay, right now we're starting to do some things for people in Africa. Okay, the indigenous people,
hmm
but we're really concentrating on the indigenous, honoring and respecting our elders, honoring and respecting the Native American culture. And so we've had programs, and this is the first time, what I'm going to say to you, that people really, they don't know what we do.
right,
Okay, okay. But Gary Tom, the person that's ill,
yep,
that, okay, Gary, when he and I first met, we said to each other, we're committed the rest of our lives to help the indigenous people. That it was a commitment we made over 30 years ago.
right,
He's a golfer, Gary is.
yep,
Okay, and he got me to play golf. Okay, what he did over 30 years ago, he became friends with a guy named Johnny Miller, who is a retired professional golfer. And they developed what they call Indian shootout tournaments. And in the 30 years, they have earned over $30 million to assist Native American children for higher education. Nobody knows. This is the first time this has been publicly said.
right. You was
Gary
telling
and
me
I,
about this just a little bit beforehand, and yeah,
okay, nobody really knows that, okay?
right,
Okay, right now, because of the corruption of the Bureau of Indian Affairs and how they've corrupted our tribes, reservation tribe, and I just came back a couple of days ago, and we took cords of wood down to the Navajo and the Hopi
yep,
nations, okay? And as we're driving and going to the individual homes, I see all these oil wells.
yeah.
I mean, that tribe is wealthy, but they can't afford to take care of their
Of their own,
elders.
yeah, they're not taking care of their people. They've got money from that oil that's being sold, but they're not
Oh,
taking care of their own.
yeah. So many of those people, Navajo presidents, have gone to prison because of embezzlement and stuff, but they can't get down to the corruption that it is. They need to. just make all these tribes, give them statehood, and get the Bureau of Indian Affairs out of it, because that's what's corrupting everything.
Yeah,
And so
but it's almost like the Bureau of Indian Affairs is there to do the work, like what you said Andrew Jackson was doing by wanting to do the reservations. He put them on the poorest, weakest, most undesirable lands. And I personally haven't been on reservations, but from people that I've talked to that have been on reservation lands, they said that the people there are just so financially distraught, and that they have some of the worst conditions that they're living in, and it
unequivocally,
and it's and it's
unequivocally.
and it's really sad that they're in that position, because out of anyone, those should be the people that are being taken care of the most. Because like you said, when you have a tribe where they have these lands, where these lands are selling off oil and stuff like that, that money shouldn't be going into tribal leaders' pockets. That should be going out to all the members of the tribe to build up the
That's right.
lands, to build up the communities, to take care of the elders and everyone that's out there.
Yeah, but you got to realize that extermination order is still going on, but it's different. That's the first thing that
Oh
Trump
yeah,
did when this virus came out. That's the reason in Arizona, if you took some kind of a X-ray vision of where all the votes came from that voted towards Biden, it was the Indian reservations. They voted Biden in. And because of what Trump did, he eliminated the funding to help these tribal leaders out, that would have gone to the elders and stuff. I mean, it was just pure evil. But that's been going on. It's not just Trump, but that's
right.
been going on for a long time. And so right now, Oklevueha is concerned, very concerned about honoring and respecting our elders of the Indian reservation. Well, first of all, we want to heal or empower the people that are so much out of balance.
Right.
We want to support and respect and honor our elders that have retained these cultures. See, that's the reason the tribes don't take care of the elders, because the elders are refusing to buy into the corruption, and they
Right.
still work under the fire. And the Bureau of Indian Affairs, if the tribe started to take care of the elders, the Bureau of Indian Affairs starts cutting their funds out, because they don't want these Indians to be honoring their heritage.
Well,
So
it's still that cultural genocide that we spoke about
that's
many
exactly
times
right.
before.
It's just
It's because
it's just a different.
those elders are the ones who hold the language, they hold the stories,
That's
they
exactly.
hold all that, and they want to get rid of them so they can't pass that down. That's why, to me,
That's it.
what we are doing right now is so very critical, because this is a way to start passing that knowledge down. And like I've told you before, I said any of the elders that you know that want an avenue to speak out, if there's things that they want to talk about that they're able to talk about on this show, they have an open door. All they need to do is get a hold of me, and I will set time aside and we will make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's. I think didn't I say something to you about Lone Buck?
Yeah, I
Uh,
reached out to Lone Buck. I sent him a text. I just haven't heard from him.
well, his wife and he were in an automobile accident, and they both have got vertebrae problems, and they've had to
Oh,
have operations. And so that's the only reason he hasn't called you back. And
I
so,
figured there was something going on as to why, and that's
yeah,
why I haven't pushed the issue or anything. I figured, when the time's right, he'll reach out.
yeah, he will. He
Yeah.
will. That's for sure. So you have okay the empowerment of people that are making changes. You have respecting and honoring the elders so they retain and are honored for holding on to their traditions. You got to remember the reason that Crazy Horse was murdered and Sitting Bull were murdered is because they wouldn't sign an agreement to put down their way of living.
Right.
And that's what they've been after, is trying to kill off the indigenous cultures because of the way, the beauty of their lives is what it amounts to. So there's one other item, and this is what I'll finish up, is respecting and honoring the earth, and
Right.
it needs healing.
Oh yeah.
And it
That just sends
and
chills down my spine because that's one of the things I'm called to. I mean,
mm,
I feel that so deep in my soul.
so with all these things that I just got through saying to you, I mean, it's like education. First of all, the stand that Linda and I made with Gary Tom supporting us shows totally, completely, from every conceivable way you can think of. Now there is a organization of people that can truly experience the full ramifications of the United States Constitution.
Right.
And the education of the people are coming by the medicine people that are doing the work, and that's bringing other people in.
Right.
Then the other part is doing philanthropy. I mean, we supply the Lakota Sioux people, or members of the church, with propane to get them through. We've been doing that for decades. People don't know these things. They don't know
Right.
about the golf tournaments and stuff. They don't know that when this pandemic thing came out, we've sent water, big tanks of water down there. We sent, food, masks, everything. And then now we're doing this thing with the wood, and we're going to continue to supply wood. And then we have other plans on. We got these wild crafters. I don't know if you know what that means, but wild crafters are that go out and gather plants
Right.
that make our medicines and stuff.
Right.
Okay, we have an organization there gathering these plants with prayer, bringing them back, preparing the formulas that can. We already have something that can handle this virus thing. Okay, one of the wildcrafters had this thing. Took him 4 days to get over it because he says this is what you use for this and this is what you use for that, and there's three different plants that take care of this virus stuff, and so and so these pharmaceutical industries. I mean, we don't have any shareholders we have to take care of. We don't have any
Right.
attorneys we have to pay. We don't have these big fancy buildings and all this other stuff. We don't have, so we can darn near give these medicine, these formulas to people that
Right.
need. And so we're forming the ceremonies are a medicine, but then these plants and things are also another medicines. And you'll
Right.
watch, within a couple of years, you'll see off of the website, Oklevueha's website, that all of these formulas that can help out every one of these things. That's going to be one of the things. And all the money that we make off of that goes right back into helping people.
Right.
We're not saving up for a yacht, and we don't have any
Right.
shareholders and stuff like
Right.
that.
Have you don't have a board of trustees that's taking, 100 million a year and their pay and
All we
right.
care about, the only reason we deal with money, it assists us to help more people.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
The money comes in, it goes right back out helping people. And I just shared a couple of those things with you, but that's really what I wanted to end this thing up on.
Right. And
Is
that's
that
honestly just scratching the surface of what everything happens and stuff. So it's just a little bit of it and stuff. And people don't understand that every time someone joins the church and they pay those church membership fees, those fees aren't going into, someone's pocket. They're going in to help other people out and stuff.
so every bit of it, every bit of it.
Yeah.
It's 30. What is it? I don't. Is it $30 or $35 or
I
whatever
think
or
if you
two?
go through the branch and stuff and you get a letter of good standing through the branch, I think it's $30, and then for like For veterans and stuff, I think it's 20, if I remember right.
One time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
who ever heard of a membership of one time
And
contribution? That's
and
for life.
I don't know if it's this way. It was when I signed up, but if you didn't get a letter of good standing through a church branch and you wanted to come in, I think it was a $200 fee for a one time. And
Yeah.
that was to be a freestanding without being in within a certain branch.
I believe that you would be with the mother church.
Yeah,
You would
yeah,
be a member of the mother church, is what that amounted to.
yeah.
And then there's some other things that go along. I don't know. I'm so far out of all that stuff. I don't even know what's going on.
Those are conversations to have with the governing council.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, I think to end up these three different programs that I committed to, is I ended it up. We're here to serve,
Yep.
pure and simple. Whatever we can do to help out our 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 people, our fellow human beings, our fellow beings on this planet Earth as well as the Earth. We're in there. During the oil or the pipe thing going on, that's been going on, we've got representatives up there.
Yeah.
We finance them being there. I
Up
mean,
there at Standing Rock and stuff.
yeah, nobody knows all the things that we actually do. As a matter of fact, this is the first time I think publicly we've ever mentioned anything. Okay, I think they're starting to do things. I think on this wood thing, they put out to the membership
Yeah.
that they really want to do, and then all of a sudden, they've
Yeah,
got they,
there was a thing put on the website for a donation drive for the members on the wood thing. I saw that on there and stuff.
yeah,
And
and,
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 and they wasn't asking for much. They're like, if you can give, anywhere between $5 to $20 is what they was asking.
oh yeah, and they had that amount of money they needed almost overnight.
Yep.
I mean, it's just because the people that are coming into Oklevueha, they're good people, and
They're
they take on this idea about charity.
yep.
They're charitable,
They're
and
coming
and
in to serve. They see I the majority of the people that I've seen come into Oklevueha, and especially through the Peaceful Mountain Way branch, which is the branch that I'm part of with Demian, the people that we see coming in there, a lot of times you see them coming in initially looking for that healing, looking for that help, but then once they get in there, they can't wait to turn around and help other people.
that's
And,
exactly
and,
right.
and like on our Facebook group that we have, people will come on and they'll ask a question, and before one of the ministerial staff can get in there to respond, these people are like, "Oh, well, I've done ceremony. This is what we went through. If you're going to be going down to the area to stay, this is the best areas to stay. If you're not going to be staying at the oratory, these people are giving all kinds of information." And like, I saw one of the guys this past weekend when they had a group ceremony going on. He said, "Well, I'm not going to be staying at the oratory. I'm getting a hotel room, and it's just a few minutes away, right off the highway from where the oratory is. If anyone needs to come over to take a shower or anything like that, or you just want to come over and hang out." And like he said, there's extra, he had an extra bed and a couch in there. He offered it out to people. So,
It's just the way it is.
yeah, and he's just like, and I mean, this guy's like third or fourth time going down doing group ceremonies, and he was just there to say, "Hey, I've got all this resources. It's not just I'm getting this for me, but there's more here than I can use. You're welcome to it. Come." you
Yeah.
know.
Well, there it is. That's where Oklevueha is. It's just to serve our fellow human beings, our fellow inhabitants on this planet, as well as the earth itself.
Yep.
That we're here to serve, and I think that's uh, that's all I got.
Yeah.
That's what we're here about. And any way we can find to serve our fellow human beings, we're going to do it. That's just the way it is. And so that's all I have to say, my friend.
James, I want to thank you so much for this series, these 3 episodes that we've done together. This has been such a blessed time. I know a lot of people who have watched this have talked about how amazing it is to be able to sit and listen to you talk about all the different things that we've discussed. And I know it's been a blessing to a lot of the people that's been able to see these episodes. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart with deepest amount of gratitude. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us, James, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your wisdom, for telling your tales and your stories. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Aho.
Aho.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right, James, you have a good one. Thank you so much for coming out.
All right. All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Guys, that was James Flaming Eagle Mooney. We just wrapped up our call with him. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who's came out, who's watched these episodes, who's watched these shows and stuff. And we are going to continue doing on some more things. Like you said, I'm going to be talking with Lone Buck, who is one of the governing members of the governing council. Lone Buck's got some things going on, so when he's finally able to reach out to me, we'll talk and we'll get things set up. We will be coming back in, I think next week we are going to have Demian with us again. And Puck said that, okay, yes, Puck, I will jump into your Discord with you for sure. But yeah, so, oh, do you want me to jump in there now? Do you want me to get in there now with you so you can say some stuff? Yes, no, no, yes, before I jump into this room with other people. No, after, okay. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up and call this here. This has been another episode of Breaking Reality. And once again, I want to say with the deepest heartfelt gratitude, thank you to James Flaming Eagle Mooney for being part of this. Puck, thank you for being part of this. He was here with some of this as well. And Demian Gover as well, who is the Chief Minister of the Peaceful Mountain Way branch of the Oklevueha Native American Church. And thank you so much to everyone who's come out, who's watched this, who's been part of these chats, and who has shared. And we will see you guys soon.